In my last video, I shared some ideas I had for some mini reading trackers. And in this video, I'm going to show you some examples of how you could incorporate those trackers into your bullet journal spreads. This first spread is the calendar layout I was talking about, where we have the full calendar on 2 pages, and we have 8 being August 2017. So this is a monthly spread, and then I have 1, 2, 3 trackers on here. So zooming into the bottom of the left page, we have our currently reading trackers. I put 2 books here. I'm not currently reading Little Monsters. I finished that last month, but I am currently reading Elizabeth I. Now I wanted to put 2 books because I don't use these trackers when I'm only reading 1 book at a time. I like to use them when I'm reading multiple, again, so that I can sort of see the cumulative progress I've been making. But it's up to you. I have the page numbers here. I didn't really calculate the proportions, but I had, a larger tracker for the larger book, smaller for the smaller book, title and author, and you can include any other relevant information. And sliding over to the bottom of the right side, I have a reading tracker in the calendar variation, where we have 10 pages or more, 50 pages or more, or not reading at all. Again, you can just choose one color and have it be that you read or you didn't read. You could have larger numbers, you could have multiple things that you're tracking. I chose the calendar view because I figured people who like the calendar spread will like to see their reading in a calendar variation. Again, it's very small. It's roughly the size of 2 of the calendar days on a 31-day calendar. And lastly, on this page, we have our pages read tracker, and I modified this one to be a 3-month tracker. So even though this is just an August spread, I was thinking maybe someone might have a goal to read a certain number of pages over the summer. So I put a goal of 1,000 and gray, dark gray for June, light gray for July, blue for August, so that you can take whatever you read in June, fill it in whatever you read in July, and then start filling in August to see if you can get to your page number goal by the end of the summer. This is something that you could put on a separate page for like summer goals, or you can put it on each of the 3 months calendar spreads. Maybe your June one would just look like this, your July one would look like this, and then August, hopefully to 1,000. Altogether, that is just an example of how I incorporated 3 of the mini trackers into a calendar layout. This next example of a spread with a reading tracker is the spread I was talking about, where you just have a day of the week on each line, a day of the month on each line, and you fill in events or appointments, things that are coming up in that month. I put a to-do list of major tasks on the side because I've seen that often in this sort of layout. And then on the bottom, we have that other variation of a reading tracker where we just have the 2 rows here. And again, I chose this one to go with this layout because I feel like people who like this layout might prefer this type of a tracker. But you can mix and match whatever way works for you and your spread. Instead of doing the 2 colors of 10 pages and 50 pages, I decided to do one where it was just whether you read or didn't read. And on the right side, I have more trackers. So one thing you can do is, if you're already tracking habits, then you can just add a row for read. Simple enough. Some examples of things that you might track are if you're up before 8, if you drank 8 glasses of water, if you were journaling, if you exercised, things like that. If you already do that sort of tracking, or you think you might want to, then you can just add a row for whether you read or not. Or maybe you want it to be read 50 pages or something like that. Now what I have on the side I ended up changing halfway through, so bear with me. But I put 3 weeks on here thinking that the 4th week people might be going back to school, so they might not be wanting to track things the same way for that week. we've got 3 weeks here of the time trackers that I showed you on that page of mini reading trackers. So what I started to do was put the days of the week and the dates. So the 1st of August was on Tuesday, and then continue the 6th through the 12th, and the 13th through the 19th. And I was planning on tracking reading, exercise, TV, and social media in each of the squares so that I could see how those things might have related to one another, or how much time I was spending generally on each of those things. But then I decided it could be cool if you wanted to get rid of these week 1, week 2, and week 3 and have a tracker for each of the different activities. That's another way that you could compare them that maybe is a little bit easier to interpret visually for you. So whether you want to have multiple things tracked in the same square so that you can see how they overlap, or if you just want them side by side, you can track them that way. So there you have it. Those are some ideas for some mini reading trackers. Let me know if you try any of these or if they work for you. And if you want to see more bullet journaling for book lovers videos like this one, then make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time.